Easily fire my gas kiln. If I spent a whole day, maybe a day and a half making them, I might make enough to fire the wood kiln. And my wood kiln holds a lot of pots. And the nice thing about them is, as long as they don't break, and as long as not too much glaze gets on these things, you can reuse them just about as many times as you would like. And the thing about it is, they start out really crumbly, which is really nice. So after they're fired once, you fire them, your glaze runs down, or even if the glaze doesn't run down. I use this as wadding as well too, if I'm not using shells, and I'll use it stuffed inside shells to keep the shells from falling in if there's a heavy weight on them. But where was I? Yeah, this stuff is crumbly, and just you can just touch it with a grinder and it just poof, it's gone, falls right off, and it doesn't take the glaze or the clay with it, which is really nice. Now, I said you can use them multiple times, and that's true, but as you continue to use them, they will slowly become more and more vitrified. So they do get harder and harder to grind off if they get stuck directly to your glazier pots. But they never stop preventing glaze from getting on your shelves. And so they are really, really nice for that. If there's one tool in your repertoire that is, what would you call it, cost performance maybe, that, if you spend a little bit of money on this and it pays you back in huge dividends over the months or years that you use them. They're just wonderful. And your friends will all marvel at how wonderfully white and beautiful your kiln shelves are. I used some other wadding when I was in a different country last year. They had a preferred wadding material, and they used flour in it. I guess the gluten makes it stretchy, to me it did feel like flour when we were using it and making it into wads. I found, in my case, maybe just because I'm used to this, that I found that quite difficult to use. I thought it was hard to form because it tried to pull back into different shapes. It was like pizza dough, and coming out of the kiln it was pretty hard, and you had to really soak it in water for it to come out nicely. And even then, it was hard to get the white off the pots. I don't know what it was. It was like alumina powder, probably, and maybe some kaolin and flour, and I don't know what else. But I found that you just can't go wrong with this silica sand and just pure fire clay. It's so easy to work with. And if you want, you can do other things with it. Every once in a while, I will mix in carbonized rice hulls or other burnable sort of material to burn out, and that makes them lighter, and it also adds a little color to the pots where they touch the pots. But this is a pretty basic, these are the basic ones. These are a little, oh, well, these are a little thicker. I'm going to see if I might just slap that out to round. That might work. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, that's a little more round. These were at the bottom, and at that point the clay was saying, no more, you're not going to cut me, I'm just going to tear. So I just went in double thickness and just decided I'd paddle it out to a bigger size. And I talked about 3 sizes earlier, and I showed you the small and the medium size, but the big ones are about 8 inches across. Well, maybe not that much, maybe 7. ideally 7 inches or so across, and I use them to go under water jars and bigger jars and things like that with bigger bottoms. And let's see, this is still not quite big enough for that size. Oh, this towel is starting to come apart a bit. Anyway, it's about getting close. Maybe about this big would be the large size. And so you can just keep paddling it out if you want, like this, and it'll keep going. Like I said, if you take the grog out ahead of time, or if you take that sand out ahead of time, you'll get a prettier cut. You can actually cut them thinner, and the clay goes much farther. You can make them, let's see, I've made them about as thin as, 2 or 3 millimeters, I guess. And they work beautifully. You've just got to be really careful when you're handling them when they're raw. After they're bisqued, they're much stronger. When they're raw, they're just really fragile. But so you don't want to like hold a pot on them before you put them in the kiln. You want to set them on the shelf first and then set everything on top of them. And that's how these will get used. I'm not going to bisque them ahead of time. I'm just going to use them green, and I'm going to put them on the shelf, put the work or the shells that the work's going to go on top of these. Then put the pot down and not move it from there. Oh, and the other advantage, if you're packing a shelf with a lot of pots and you want to make sure they're not touching each other, and you want a foolproof way to not have to have any mistakes as you're loading them in, you can lay these biscuits out first on the shelf, and if they're slightly larger, if you've sized it so they're slightly larger than the diameter of your pot, then you can lay these all out on the shelf. Then you can just start putting pots down, and you know they're not going to touch each other, and they'll be spaced out nicely on the shelf. Sort of, you know, you can sort of pre-decide how those pots are going to go in without having to put pots in and having to shift them around and move things around. So that's another advantage of using these. Anyway, so this is close to a big size. Not quite. I don't think I'm going to go too far with it today. But there you have it. Biscuits, but not for eating. Have a good day, everybody.